Throughout the centuries, few stories have remained as luminous and mysterious as the journey of the Magi from the East. They appear briefly in the scriptures, without names, without a defined number, without but only an enigmatic indication: wise men from the East. But this small fragment gave rise to powerful traditions, ancient rituals, pilgrimages and legends that crossed deserts, empires, maps, and calendars, until reaching the heart of the month of January, when much of the Christian world celebrates Epiphany, the manifestation of the divine to humanity. And subscribe to the Sacred Roots channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any stories, legends, and mysteries that connect faith, culture, and history. Today, we will explore the route possibly taken by these wise men from the East, a route that blends astronomy and faith, science and mystery, politics and spirituality, a route that, even today, remains shrouded in questions. Who were these travelers? Where did they come from? What exactly did they see in the sky? And why did they risk such a long and dangerous journey? To understand this, we need to go back in time long before the birth of Jesus and enter the universe that shaped these men. The world of Persian astronomers, Chaldean priests, Babylonian scholars, and Arab mystics. In the ancient East, the term Magi did not mean magician or sorcerer, as we imagine today. It was a title of respect. Magi were wise men, mathematicians, priests of the sacred fire in Persian traditions, guardians of the stars, and interpreters of celestial signs. Their mission was to observe the sky, identify unusual movements, and interpret them as divine messages. In the Zoroastrian tradition of ancient Persia, these men spent entire nights in observation towers built atop mountains or in the middle of the desert, far from the lights of the cities. There, wrapped in heavy cloaks to protect themselves from the biting cold of the night, they meticulously recorded every planetary movement, every star that appeared, every phenomenon that defied the known pattern. They were men of science and faith at the same time, without separation between one and the other. For them, the sky was not just a collection of bright stars, but a great sacred book where the gods wrote their will. When something extraordinary happened in the heavens, something that could only be seen by trained eyes, a journey began. But what did the Magi see? The answer remains one of history's greatest enigmas. Some scholars speak of a supernova recorded in ancient Chinese texts. Others point to a rare conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, a phenomenon that would have occurred in the constellation of Pisces, a symbol associated with Israel. For ancient astrologers, Jupiter represented royalty, Saturn symbolized time and destiny, and Pisces pointed to the Jewish people. It was as if the sky were writing a sentence: the promised king has just been born. Other researchers suggest that the Magi saw the appearance of a bright comet, like Halley's Comet, or even a planetary alignment that created the illusion of a moving star. For science, all are possible hypotheses. For faith, the star remains a direct sign from the divine. Whatever the explanation, something magnificent shone in the firmament and ignited within those men the certainty that an unprecedented event was taking place. The journey then began. Departing possibly from Persia, or perhaps ancient Babylon, or even the desert kingdoms of Arabia, the Magi crossed endless dunes, walled cities, and trade routes teeming with caravans. They followed routes that we now know as parts of the Silk Road, ancient paths that connected the East and the Mediterranean. Imagine the scene: men dressed in fine, colorful fabrics, mounted on camels or Arabian horses, followed by servants carrying provisions, water, tents, and the precious gifts they carried with them. The journey may have lasted months. Some traditions say it took up to 2 years. Others claim they arrived at the exact birthplace days later. What we know for sure is that they followed a light that seemed to guide them almost consciously. They crossed sandstorms that obscured the horizon, passed through hostile villages where foreigners were viewed with suspicion, traversed rushing rivers and narrow valleys where bandits often attacked caravans. But they continued. The star shone ahead like a silent promise. As they journeyed, they carried with them 3 gifts that would become eternal symbols: gold, the metal of royalty; frankincense, the essence of priesthood; myrrh, a precious resin used for embalmina, symbol of death and sacrifice. These gifts were more than gestures of honor. They were prophetic declarations, almost as if the Magi understood more than many around them, that this newborn was at once king, priest, and sacrifice. Centuries later, Christian tradition would give these travelers names and identities. They became Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazaro. Though these names do not appear in the scriptures, medieval legend transformed them into kings, each representing one of the three continents known at the time: Europe, Asia, and Africa. Melchior, the white-haired elder, brought gold and represented the wisdom of old age. Gaspar, the middle-aged man, offered incense and symbolized spiritual maturity. Balthazar, the dark-skinned youth, presented myrrh and represented strength in youth. Together, they formed the image of all humanity bowing before the divine. The most plausible route suggests that they first arrived in Jerusalem, the political and religious capital of Judea. There, they openly asked, "Where is the King of the Jews who has just been born?" This question resonated like an earthquake. King Herod, paranoid about any threat to his power, was unsettled. Herod was a feared, violent man, known for ordering the killing of even members of his own family when he suspected treason. The idea that a king had been born in his domains filled him with fury and fear. The priests were confused, but the Magi, guided by their star, left Jerusalem and headed for Bethlehem. The star shone again, as if emerging stronger at the end of the journey, and led them to a humble home where they found Mary, Joseph, and the child. And here's an important detail. Unlike modern depictions that show the three wise men in a stable, many scholars believe that when they arrived, Mary and Joseph were already settled in a simple house months after the birth. The classic image is poetic, but the story may have been different. They entered, offered their gifts, and, according to ancient traditions, bowed deeply, recognizing in the child a light greater than any star they had ever seen. The encounter was brief, but transformative. There, in that modest house in Bethlehem, heaven and earth touched. Wise men from the east, men of knowledge and power, knelt before a baby wrapped in simple swaddling clothes. It was the complete reversal of all expectations. It was not power that recognized the divine, but the divine that revealed itself to those who sought it sincerely. After the visit, they decided not to return to Herod. In dreams or visions they were warned of the dangers and took another route back. This detour saved the boy's life, but it did not prevent the tragedy that followed. When Herod realized he had been deceived by the Magi, he ordered one of the most terrible atrocities in history: the massacre of all male children under 2 years old in Bethlehem. It was a brutal massacre, an act of desperation by a tyrant driven mad by the fear of losing his throne. Meanwhile, warned in a dream, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus fled to Egypt, narrowly escaping Herod's murderous fury. But what about the Magi? What happened to them afterwards? Some accounts say they returned to their lands and spread the message they had witnessed. Others claim they became secret disciples, guardians of a mystery that few understood. Some say they died as martyrs, persecuted for revealing the truth they had found. If you're enjoying this journey through the mysteries and sacred roots of the three wise men, leave a like now and subscribe to the Sacred Roots channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss any stories, legends, and mysteries that connect faith, culture, and history. And in the comments, tell us, have you ever followed a star in your life? Any sign that guided you down an unexpected path? The most fascinating tradition, however, claims that their bodies, or at least their relics, rest today in the magnificent Cologne Cathedral in Germany. But how did they get there? The story is almost as extraordinary as the original journey. According to ancient accounts, the bodies of the three Magi were found by Empress Helena, mother of Constantine, during one of her pilgrimages to the Holy Land in the 4th century. She is said to have taken the relics to Constantinople, from where they were later transferred to Milan, Italy. But in 1164, the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa conquered Milan and, as spoils of war, took the sacred relics to Cologne. There, one of the most sumptuous reliquaries in Christendom was built, a golden ark over 2 meters long, decorated with gold, silver, precious stones, and colored enamels, where the skulls and bones of the three kings would rest forever. This reliquary became the heart of Cologne Cathedral, one of the largest and most impressive Gothic churches in the world. For centuries, pilgrims from all over Europe walked 4 months to venerate the relics of the Magi, believing they had the power to protect travelers, cure illnesses, and ensure prosperity. Cologne Cathedral, with its twin towers rising 157 meters high, became one of the greatest pilgrimage centers of the Middle Ages. Even today, thousands of people visit the site every year, not only to admire the monumental Gothic architecture, but to stand before the golden reliquary that holds what many believe to be the remains of the men who followed the star to Bethlehem. But the story doesn't end there. Centuries later, the church would establish the celebration of this day on January 6th, the date that marks the Epiphaniath, manifestation of Christ to the world through the Magi. In many countries, this day is more important than Christmas itself. In Spain and much of Latin America, for example, it is the 3 wise men, not Santa Claus, who bring gifts to the children. On the night of January 5th, entire families take to the streets to watch the Cabalgata de Reyes, a colorful procession where actors dressed as the 3 kings parade on floats, throwing sweets to the crowd. Children leave their shoes on the windowsill, along with water and straw for the camels, hoping that in the morning they will find gifts left by the Magi. In Portugal and Brazil, bolo rei, a sweetbread filled with candied fruit, is a traditional treat at this time of year. Hidden inside the cake is a dried bean, and whoever finds it must pay for the cake the following year. It's a tradition that blends celebration, good luck, and community. In parts of Africa, enormous processions celebrate the visit of the Magi, with traditional music and dances, incorporating local rhythms and colorful costumes that transform the celebration into a festival of faith and culture. In Christian Arab countries, such as Lebanon and Syria, Epiphany is a festival of lights and purification with holy water, symbolizing God's manifestation to the world. In the Orthodox East, Epiphany is linked to the baptism of Jesus and the manifestation of the Holy Spirit. In some regions, priests throw crosses into icy rivers, and young people plunge into the freezing waters to retrieve them, in a ritual that symbolizes purification and spiritual renewal. Window after window, continent after continent, the presence of the Magi appears as an invisible thread linking different cultures, weaving a story that crosses deserts, seas, wars, empires, and centuries. And perhaps that is why, even today, more than 2,000 years later, the journey of the Magi still fascinates us. Because, deep down, we all carry a bit of that impulse to follow a lighter, personal star that seems to call to us when everything around us is dark. We all seek signs, paths, directions. We all search, in some way, for something greater than ourselves. The Magi represent this eternal quest, the courage to set out, the mystery of the journey, the faith to continue even without knowing exactly what we will find at the end of the road. They represent the encounter between science and spirituality, between intelligence and intuition, between heaven and earth. They were not Jewish. They were not part of the chosen people. They did not know the written prophecies, and yet they recognized the divine when they encountered it. This teaches us that sincere seeking, wherever it comes from, finds its destiny. As we conclude this journey through the ancient roots of the East, perhaps the greatest lesson is this: the journey of the Magi has not ended. It continues in every person who decides to seek, to ask, to walk, to follow their star, and to allow the divine to reveal itself on their path. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe to the Sacred Roots channel, and share this video with someone who is also searching for their guiding star. In the comments, tell us which light you followed or are still following on your journey. Here, we continue exploring the sacred paths that connect humanity, faith, and mystery. After all, each route holds a revelation, and each revelation ignites a new star.